happened? What is the main difference between the long and the short?
Well, it's the depth of the head, how it goes into the head. If you put this long one and the short one, the pistons will actually hit that.
Yeah,
That's why the design.
I hear some years ago, because I am an old school mechanic, that the short ones are heat spark plugs and the longer ones are cold spark plugs. That's true?
Back then, yes. I would say it was true, yes.
But today, the people never pay attention on if it's cold or hot. It's according with the manufacturer.
It's according to what the manufacturer. Each engine is tested with a certain spark plug, and that's the spark plug you need to stay with.
Correct. That's the idea.
You don't want to swap from one spark plug just because you think it's going to be better. You have to, because those engines are tested with that specific spark plug.
Danny, what happens if you don't replace the spark plugs according with the intervals recommended?
Well, what happens? A couple of things happens. It depends on if you have a 2-stroke or a 4-stroke. Then the 2-stroke, what happens is, especially if it's a direct injection shoots a spark right directly in the cylinder, and what happens is it ignites the fuel. Sometimes just a little bit of fuel there, and you'll get some fuel accumulation, and what it does is it makes carbon deposits. And then what happens is the steel, it'll work, the steel will work, but what happens is you're in a saltwater environment, you're going to get corrosion. The day you go to take that spark plug off, you might round this off, and then you're going to have to take the heads off.
This is very important, guys. It's on the materials. It's in the quality of the stainless steel.
Absolutely.
No, because it's ignition protected, because the spark plugs are not ignition protected.
No.
Because I hear some years ago somebody say, no, it's because the marine spark plugs are ignition protected. No. The spark plugs are not.
It's the material that they're made in.
Correct. It's not ignition protected because you have the rubber bulb to cover the spark plug.
Right.
That's the protection.
Right. And another material they sometimes use iridium.
Oh, iridium.
On the Optimaxes, they use
correct,
iridium.
It's iridium. This is another important thing. The quality of the electrode, especially the material on the electrode, is a special material, no?
Yes.
It's a titanium, iridium,
Yeah.
vanadium, Constantan, special material.
Some spark plugs are $30 to $40 a piece.
Yeah. Correct. Danny, what happened with this particular electrode? This is the typical electrode. What about this?
So this one here is for a Yamaha, and what happens is instead of the spark jumping from the electrode to the middle of this, it actually shoots from the side.
On the side.
So what happens is the electricity goes from the middle and then it goes to the side to the rims, and that's how it ignites the fuel.
It's more efficient.
This really, they don't even use this much anymore. This pretty much is only for the older models. Everything is typical like from the other one. They don't use this very often.
Danny, this is another great example. Suzuki 150V engine, 2 spark plugs per cylinder,
like we were discussing, yeah.
1 coil per each 2 spark plugs.
Yeah, so you have one coil controlling both cylinders, both
oh,
spark plugs.
Yeah, 1 coil with 2 cables for both spark plugs. Other coil for both. No, it's not efficient.
No, it's not efficient. They thought it was efficient, but it's not. It only lasted like 4 or 5 years. And that was
it. Really? It's not on the market right now.
No, you'll probably never see this again.
Yeah. Okay.
Only here.
All right. Danny, we have great examples here of black smoke, oil, excessive temperature, and improperly tools.
Right.
What about this?
So this one here, when you don't use the right socket, okay, you have to use the right socket. This is a spark plug socket. If you use a regular socket, what happens is it puts pressure and it breaks the ceramic.
What happened if the ceramic, this is porcelain, what happened if the ceramic is broken?
Well, if it breaks, sometimes these come through and they can fall into the cylinder.
Yeah.
And then what happens is it becomes
that piece of metal go into the cylinder and destroy the cylinder.
The engine.
All right.
So that's what happens when you use the improper tool.
Yeah, that's the situation. And proper tools. All right. What about this?
So this one here is nice and carboned up. So this one here has probably been, it's probably nothing wrong with the plugs. This probably hasn't been changed in a while.
Yeah.
And that's why this is what it would look like when it's been used too much. It's carboned up.
And what about this?
Now this one here, if you notice, the gap is huge because what happens is it's got a lot of hours on it, and what happens is you can see that there's too much gap. See the difference in the gap between that one and the other one? It's a huge difference.
The excessive gap erodes the electrode.
Absolutely.
And finally, the arc is not appropriated, and the combustion is not good.
Good.
All right. This is another example, no? Of an excessive amount of oil.
Correct.
All right. And
see how it's nice and shiny?
Yeah, that's the shiny.
Shiny.
The shiny color.
And you see the difference on the one, the other one. This one here, see, is not shiny. It's dull, dark black, dull.
Because this is fuel.
And this one here is nice and shiny. Oil. Yeah, you can see how it's all shiny.
Okay, Danny. Other common problem I remember some years ago with the aluminum heads is try to remove the spark plugs. Be careful because you can destroy the thread.
Threads,
How can you avoid that?
Well, first of all, there's a couple of things the way they do it. The aluminum heads, in most 2 strokes and 4 strokes are aluminum heads.
Yeah, the majority.
You can only torque them to a certain spec. You can't crank
Not
them.
too much.
You can't crack them. Now, if you damage the threads in the heads for the spark plugs, they do make helicoils for that, or you can retap it if you save it. But just think about it. If you're tapping,
experience with
yeah,
that.
if you tap it, you throw metal into the cylinder.
Correct.
Right.
And you introduce pieces of metal.
So what you would have to do is take the head off. So if you're not, it's better to be careful. And what I normally do, and I tell my guys, there's a couple ways you can do this. You can do it by hand first,
Correct.
or you take a little clear hose and you put it over this and use that.
That's good. That's good idea.
So that way you don't have, because sometimes the spark plugs are not straight like this. Some are an angle, some are angled out. It all depends on like this one here. If you looked on the back, it's actually angled in the middle.
Yeah.
So what happens is kind of hard to get to. So if you use that hose, a long clear hose, and you can at least get it. Once you get it started, you know you're not going to cross thread. Now, if you put it in there and you think you have it in, and all of a sudden you're tightening, it's just getting harder and harder. Stop, because more than likely you're cross threading.
Okay. Danny, in this particular engine, we are going to check the relationship in between the coil, the spark plug, and how the current travels.
Correct.
All right, that's the coil.
So this is the coil. So this is going to be probably about 40,000 volts from the computer.
In the output.
Right, in the output. Because it's got a transformer inside.
It's a step-up transformer.
Right.
At the input of the transformer, you receive 12 volts.
12 volts.
And the output is?
About 40,000 volts.
40,000.
Right.
And a step-up transformer.
It'll make your hair stand up.
Yeah, I know. I know. What happens if suddenly you touch with your finger that cable, the high tension cable?
If you touch it, it'll shock you. It's gonna scare you more than hurt you. It's just not a comfortable feeling.
Yeah, all right.
But it's not a bad. It's not gonna kill you.
It's not critical.
Right. It's not critical.
All right. This is the coil. That's the output of the coil, and this is the input of the spark plug, and it's connected with that cable.
Right. If you take this off.
Correct.
If you look on the inside.
Correct. You have the metal.
You have the metal that goes on top of the spark plug.
Those cables are called also high tension cables.
High tension cables.
Yeah, because it's in the high tension side.
Right.
Of course, this rubber is a high quality rubber.
Right.
What happens if you have a crack on that piece of rubber?
So if let's just say you have a crack, it is close to a ground. Again, ground's looking for the quickest way to ground. It can actually arc and go right to the block.
And you can see the arc.
And you can see it, absolutely.
Yeah. Especially if it's dark, you can see the arc.
Right.
All right. And this computer receives the power from
the computer. So this
computer?
This is what it tells it when to fire.
Yeah.
So the computer controls all the information with all the sensors and knows what the RPMs and how many times it needs to fire. Remember, this is like the E-Tech injector that controls the polarity of the injectors.
Correct.
So by doing that, it knows it when to fire and how much. And this one here is a different system because there's 2 different type of coils, but which we'll discuss.
I remember the other one that you showed before was
stratified.
Correct.
Which, if you look at the picture,
correct,
it's up there, and this is the induction system.
Induction.
So the difference, so everybody understands what the stratified. The stratified basically is how they did it before the induction system came. What it'd be every time the injector shot fuel, the spark had to fire simultaneously, so you have a good combustion burn. But since they didn't have a system, so what they did is the coil was constantly sparking, and what happens is it would burn the tips off because it was on and off.
For that reason, the evolution path
into the induction system. So now what the induction system does is the spark plug stays on until it fires and then shuts off.
And protects
the spark plug. So you get longer life. You get about an extra 100 hours out of it.
In other words, the induction system is a new system.
It's a newer system.
All right.